What's up, Fox and Fox here? Today we are taking a look at the GTX 550 Ti in 2022. I apologize for the break. Life has been chaotic recently, on top of the fact that I finally just got a new test bench. So that means that you're going to be able to see more GPU reviews from me, so consider subscribing if you want to see more consistent videos. Oh, I hate saying that. The GTX 550 released on March 15th, 2011. So this is an 11-year-old card. It had a launch price of $149 US. So it was already on the lower end of graphics card tiers, and its specs kind of indicate that. It's got 1 gig of GDDR5 VRAM, a GPU clock of 900 megahertz, a shader clock of 1800 megahertz, and a memory clock of 1026 megahertz. It also has 192 shading units, has a 1x6 pin connector, does not have any HDMI ports. I had to pull out the old adapter for this one. It is unsurprisingly end of life, and DirectX 12 is not supported. Typically, I have a reason for benchmarking graphics cards, and I guess this one is just sort of a look into the past of the prehistoric times of 2011, but there's no point in buying this graphics card. I'm just going to tell you straight up. The benchmarks are funny to look at, and I think we're going to have a good time with it, but with that said, get an APU, and it's going to work way better than this, and also support DirectX 12. I don't see any reason, unless for some reason all GPUs and APUs go missing from the past decade, for you to pick up a GTX 550 Ti, unless you just want to have some fun with it. So let's take a look back into the past and let's get into the benchmarks. The first game on the list was The Witcher 3, which did not do very well at 1080p, so I brought it all the way down to 1024 by 768 with the low preset, including post-processing, and we saw an average frame rate of 32 with a 1% low of 18 and a 0.1% low of 16. And while we're here, I guess I should just mention that the test bench that I'm using is not going to bottleneck this whatsoever, even if it's not that powerful. It has a Ryzen 3600 and 32 gigs of RAM, so the 550 Ti is definitely the bottleneck here. And I was very surprised that The Witcher 3 ran as poorly as it did, but the 550 Ti is almost a decade old, and The Witcher came out, I believe, 3 years after this card, and this was a low-end card to begin with, so perhaps I shouldn't be so surprised. On the opposite end of that spectrum, though, GTA 5 seems to just be optimized to hell and back, because at 1080p with the normal settings, we saw an average frame rate of 53, a 1% low of 23, and a 0.1% low of 23, so not even that much stutter to speak of, and we were getting a close to 60 FPS experience, which I was very surprised by. You're gonna have no issues playing GTA 5 on this card, which is awesome. Up next was Mafia Definitive Edition, and this is where this card started getting goofy, because at 720p with the low settings, we saw an average frame rate of 18 with a 1% low of 6 and a 0.1% low of 4. So you might as well just be watching a Microsoft PowerPoint presentation as to what Mafia is. It's a great game. I played it at the beginning of this year for the first time, and I actually really enjoyed it. So not with this graphics card, that's for sure. Up next is The Elder Scrolls Skyrim, the original version, no remasters or updates or anything like that. And at 1080p with the medium settings, we weren't quite able to get 30 FPS, but I wanted to mention it anyway because we got 28, and bringing it down to low literally doubled the frame rate for some reason. So at the low settings, we saw an average frame rate of 60 with a 1% low of 60 and a 0.1% low of 60. So it seems like you might be able to turn on like anti-aliasing or something like that at the low settings and still be just fine playing this game at a 60 FPS experience. I don't know why medium tanked it so hard, but you're gonna have no issues playing at 1080p with a 550 Ti, which I was very impressed by. And last but not least is the most modern game on this list, and I was actually really surprised. It seems like you're gonna have no issues playing esports titles with the 550 Ti because Valorant at 1080p with the low settings got an average frame rate of 254 FPS. I don't know where the 550 Ti decided to just like absolutely destroy. I've seen modern graphics cards do worse than this. If you have any explanation, let me know. Now the 0.1% low sucked, but I can honestly blame that on lag. This card deserves whatever kind of praise it got because it seems like it pulled itself up and decided to just absolutely show me how awesome it was, because with the 1% low of 162, you're gonna have no problem playing Valorant on this machine. Now again, the 0.1% low was 4, so keep that in mind, but I think that was just the fact that my internet was very bad, but I don't know what happened. This game did amazingly, so I guess Valorant's fine, which means that CSGO is probably fine. Rocket League's probably fine. You're gonna have no issues with any games like that. So there you go. And those were all the benchmarks of the 550 Ti. I don't know what happened with Valorant or why it ran so well while Mafia ran at 18 frames per second. But hey, if you're looking for a cheap esports card, I still recommend getting fucking integrated graphics. So that's the GTX 550 Ti. And I don't know what happened with Valorant at the end, but otherwise it's a very unimpressive card. I just wanted to have a little bit of fun. Should you ever buy this? No. I think honestly Intel's integrated graphics probably work better than this half the time. So you're gonna have no issues whatsoever in terms of esports titles, I guess. Older games too, you're gonna be fine with. Anything like pre-Skyrim, you're gonna have no issues with. But I still do not ever recommend buying this card. If you have it, I also think it's time to upgrade because this thing is just gonna keep getting worse and you're gonna have more and more issues down the line when it comes to game support. So I think that although it's a fun little experience, I definitely don't recommend the 550 Ti in 2022. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, like, subscribe, do what you usually do, and as always, buy yourself something nice.